which is mediocre, and you claim, well, I saved us 8 losses this year. I mean, that's not the way it works. In the real world, when you look at the actual stats, there's no place that I can find in America or even around the world where you can point to and say, wow, we put in mask mandates, and all of a sudden cases, hospitalizations, and deaths gradually went down and stayed down. In fact, it's very much been the opposite. It's almost like if we invented birth control, and in 11 months we had a massive spike in births. I mean, that's basically what's happened all over the world, and yet no one wants to accept it. And here's to me, man, this is the part that no one's getting, and this is the really dangerous part for America, because what I believe the mask has become is effectively a cover-up for how the experts screwed this whole thing up from the beginning. They were almost entirely wrong, and they're going to use masks to effectively cover that up, and they're going to claim that it's the mask that is the only thing that is holding us together, why we haven't completely burned down, why their projections were wrong, when in fact, 1, the virus isn't nearly as bad as we're told, 2, herd immunity, or as Trump calls it, herd mentality, is far easily attained than they told us, which, if true, if that turns out to be true, will be the most catastrophic, most impactful scientific mistake in the modern era, which they will not be able to admit to. So instead, it will be claimed that masks are the reason. This is the Biden theory of now having a federal mask mandate, which is going to cause all sorts of other problems if he in fact does this, which I think he would if elected. And what we're going to end up having here is a game of pretend. We're going to be pretending that the virus is at a very low level and fading away because of masks, when in reality it's because it was never as bad as expected, and because we have developed at least some semblance of herd immunity. And this is why, to me, the mask situation is so incredibly dangerous for the future of America, because if we accept that, Glenn, stick a fork in us, they can do anything they want to us.
So tell me because I know you went down to I think it was your city council, and you were quite vocal about the mask mandate.
Oh, you saw that, huh?
Oh, I think everybody,
people around the world, I think, saw it.
Yeah.
That was quite
you were animated, and you made your case. And why are these people doing this then? Are they just ignorant? Do they have another plan? Why is this happening?
Well, as you know, I'm not a doctor, but I could teach a PhD course in media narratives, right? And this is a classic situation. So how did this happen? And how this happened, I think, is a very key question to understanding the whole thing. One of my great mysteries about this is, why is it that the mask Nazis are not furious at Dr. Fauci and the CDC and the Surgeon General, who all at the beginning of this downplayed masks, that we don't need to wear them, back in March and April, and when we really did the work? My gosh, we really did need them. I mean, thousands of people, especially in the New York area, died. I guess if the masks are so effective, because Fauci and others were against them. They were against them because the science never indicated that they were needed, that they were effective, that this was a situation that was going to actually do any good. What changed? What changed were 2 things. Americans got incredibly fearful, and like children afraid of a monster under their bed, they needed a security blanket, they needed the illusion of control, and so it made them feel good. And when you combine that with the fact that the mask became a virtue signal of people's opposition to Trump, let's be clear, that's what happened on the left. The mask became a virtue signal of opposition to Trump, and you combine that with the fear factor, something happened that no one ever expected. A freedom-loving country like America would have a massive majority of people in favor of being forced to wear masks. No one thought that was possible. But once it becomes incredibly popular, an expert like Dr. Fauci and others has no choice but to go along. Because if they don't go along, they lose their fan base, which is very important to Dr. Fauci, and they lose their status as the expert. So they switch their position 180 degrees, but somehow they don't get any blowback for having been wrong at the beginning. And that was the source of my outrage at our county supervisors, because our health director has been wrong, even more than Fauci has been from the beginning of all this, was actually against mask mandates until he suddenly switched and decided they were the most important thing in the world 3 months into this. Why? Because it was politically government to force you to wear a mask for which there is no hard evidence it's actually effective. And in reality, what you're doing is you're creating a cover story for how the experts blew it in the biggest, most catastrophic way possibly imaginable.
John, I'm so fascinated by the process here that's been used because, as you point out, the standard for a mandate should be incredibly high, right, scientifically. And what it seems to be is that if there is any hope or any sign of any benefit whatsoever, then we'll put in a new mandate. And I would add on to that it's not just a mandate. Like, it's not like they're passing laws here, right? There's no laws being passed. It's just governors and officials mandating kind of out of thin air that you have to do these things. So we're getting all of these new standards put on it. I hate the government mandate part of this. And they're doing this without any process. No legislative process is occurring in almost any of these areas. It's a really dangerous precedent.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, because we completely abandoned our entire process of governance. We're now living essentially in a monarchy, especially here in California. We're absolutely living in a monarchy. King Gavin Newsom is our monarch here, and there's no process. But let's take this a step further to the Biden federal mask mandate idea, which unfortunately I am very guys. I found myself in the bizarre situation of actually rooting for Trump at times in the last few months.
I know.
I know. Very strange.
I know.
But I care more about my country than I do about, being perceived as anti-Trump. I would throw that away in a minute to save my country. And so I'm very concerned about this Biden thing. I don't think the Trump campaign is attacking the Biden mask mandate properly. They're claiming, they're attacking this as he's flip-flopping on this. That's not the way to go after this. The way to go after this is, first of all, it's authority. Second of all, it doesn't get needed. Third of all, think about the massive confusion, chaos, and division it will sow. Especially if the virus is as under control as I believe it will be by late January of 2021, having nothing to do with masks, then he then declares that federally, we're all mandated, we can't enforce it, we admit that, we're all federally mandated to wear a mask. If you're in a state, like a red state, that doesn't have a mask mandate, who's in charge? What's the law? What's the rule? There's going to be massive confusion in schools, in sporting events, in restaurants, businesses. It's going to be a civil war. He's going to, for no end, to no actual effective end, all so that he can virtue signal to his base that he's pro-mask.
Yeah, so
that's why you attack this.
That's the only reason why we asked that question, is because we knew finally we could get John to start just going off. And now his blood is pumping, and he'll be up all day. Even though he got up early for us in Los Angeles. Thank you so much, John Ziegler. You can find him at freespeechbroadcasting.com. freespeechbroadcasting.com. All right, our sponsor this half hour is Rough Greens. If you own a dog and you've had the joy of Rough Greens hit your dog, it's the best, isn't it? Dogs love the taste. The dog, it's Uno almost jumps up at me, and he's not a jumping dog. He almost jumps up like, I gotta have some. He loves his food now. Now, this is not food. This is something you put onto the food, and it has probiotics, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, omega oils, just some of the things that your dog needs to live a healthier lifestyle, and they love to eat. I was afraid, because he loves to eat so much, that he would start gaining weight. Too much weight. He hasn't. He's in shape. It's Rough Greens. Roughgreens.com. Call 833-GLEN-33.